Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Lieutenant Colonel Kim Decker, your narrator for today's event. Welcome to this afternoon's ceremony as we pay tribute to Colonel Michael S. Whiddon on the occasion of his retirement after 33 years of dedicated service to his country and the United States Army. At this time, we would ask that all electronic devices be silenced for the duration of the ceremony. Throughout the ceremony, cues will be given to stand and be seated at the appropriate time. Please feel free to turn your chairs or take photographs as desired, but please be mindful of the camera in the back, which will be broadcasting the ceremony to family and friends who are unable to join us today in person. As Colonel Whiddon retires, we pause to honor his contributions to this great nation and to the Department of the Army. A retirement ceremony represents the culmination of a distinguished career in service to the United States and in service to our nation's freedom. It also pays tribute to the sacrifices and professional excellence that have traditionally been keys to the greatness and, at times, survival of America. Your presence today not only manifests your appreciation for Colonel Whiddon's dedication to duty, but also reflects your sincere wishes for a gratifying future. There will be several times throughout the ceremony when it will be appropriate to stand. The first occasion is during the arrival of the official party. Following directly after, the playing of the national anthem and invocation. Military members shall stand at attention during the national anthem, and it is customary for civilians to place their right hand over their hearts. The second occasion will be for the awards presentation. Finally, at the end of the ceremony, everyone is reminded to stand one last time during the singing of the Army song and remain in place until the official party has departed. Ladies and gentlemen, officiating today's ceremony is Colonel George Nichols, Command Civil Engineer, Air Education and Training Command, Joint Base San Antonio Randolph. We welcome you to today's ceremony in honor of Colonel Michael Whiddon. We're also honored to have in attendance Colonel Whiddon's wife, Mrs. Kelly Whiddon, and Colonel Whiddon's son, Ethan, daughter Taylor, and niece Kiana. We also have several family members in attendance this afternoon, both virtually and in person. Please join me in a round of applause for the family members, extended family, and friends in attendance this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of our official party and remain standing for the national anthem and the invocation. Mr. Willie Love, colleague and personal friend of Colonel Whiddon, will now deliver the invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude for the life and service of Colonel Michael Whiddon, who has been faithfully serving his nation for 33 years. We thank you for your abundant grace and protection over him and his family throughout his remarkable journey. Lord, we praise you for the wisdom and insight you've granted him in leading with integrity and compassion, for the decisions he's made with clarity and purpose have truly made a difference. We honor his unwavering commitment to duty, service in our country. We lift up Colonel Whiddon and his beautiful family, his wife Kelly, daughter Taylor, son Ethan. We ask you to bless their future with renewed love, deeper connection, and cherished memories. May they experience your guidance and embrace new opportunities for growth, happiness, and fulfillment. We pray for a prosperous and powerful and purposeful future ahead, knowing that with your strength, Colonel Whiddon and his family will continue to flourish. Surround them with your peace. Give them your joy and abundant blessings. And it is in your holy name we pray. Amen.
your stripes and bright stars, through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We will now proceed with the awards portion of our ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. Attention to orders. The Legion of Merit is presented to Colonel Michael S. Whiddon, United States Army, for exceptionally meritorious performance of outstanding service, culminating in a distinguished military career as the Senior Healthcare Administration Practitioner, United States Army Medical Center of Excellence, Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Throughout an excellent 26-year career, Colonel Whiddon's distinguished himself through the profound and strategic vision, intelligence, execution, and commitment to the Army values. His contributions and superior performance are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon him, the United States Army Medical Center of Excellence, the Combined Arms Center, and the United States Army. Signed, Milford H. Beagle, Jr., Lieutenant General, U.S. Army, Commanding. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the reading of the retirement order.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Effective February 28, 2025, Colonel Michael S. Whiddon is relieved from active duty and is retired effective 1 March 2025 per Army Regulation 140-10 in the grade of Colonel by order of the Secretary of the Army. Please be seated and join me in a round of applause for Colonel Whiddon. At this time, Colonel Nichols will present the retirement certificate and flag to Colonel Whiddon. I'll do it in just a second. The Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Colonel Michael S. Whiddon, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the 28th day of February, 2025. Signed, General Randy A. George, Chief of Staff, United States Army. At this time, I present Colonel Nichols.
Appreciate it. Well, you know what? We might need to do it just for the sake of those that are online. So, first off, another round of applause for the national anthem, and thank you for the invocation. That was amazing. Thank you to the team. Kimberly, I know it took a little bit to get all this together, and obviously you have an amazing team here to put it all together and make this happen to honor the family, and so really do appreciate it. So a round of applause for the team. Welcome to everybody online. Those that are in the room, certainly appreciate you taking time out of your day to honor the Whiddon family and be here with your presence. It says a lot about how he is perceived and embodied, the characteristics of being not just an Army officer but a soldier. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But for those that don't know, this is kind of uncommon. Maybe you see someone in a blue uniform here, retiring, presiding over an Army colonel's retirement. But there's a story behind that. But just like any other thing, I think we see, especially today, the Air Force swoops in and saves the day, so it's all good. I'll take a little bit of credit for that. It's funny because I actually have deployed, and one of my master sergeants in the room that I helped retire here, Benny, we deployed a lot with the Army, right? So it seems like, this is just par for the course, so it's all good. But no, just grateful for the opportunity to, you honor me with the opportunity to come here and honor you. And so not often do we get to do these things, but when we do, it means a ton. It means a ton, whether it's retirements, promotions, re-enlistments, you name it. It's all about not you, but it's about the family and the team and those that got you to where you are. And I know you know that. And that's the beauty of this, is that he probably would have walked out the door, collected his DD-214 in his next paycheck, and wouldn't have said anything about it. And I think relatively to everybody that raises their right hand and to serve today would arguably say the same thing, right? I mean, it's not about them. It's a calling. It's certainly something to be said about serving in our United States military. It's less than 7% of society that does it. And so thank you to all those that have worn the uniform or are wearing the uniform as well, because ultimately it's someone's got to do it, and you voluntarily do it today is something to be said. So here we are, Mike, right? But before I get too started, I just want to say thank you again to all the sacrifice the family has had for 33 years and change, and it's something, it's hard to actually comprehend the magnitude of 33 years serving. I'm about almost 25. My wife here, good shout out to my beautiful wife. Thank you for attending. Joint spouse, also Army Colonel, and certainly I said Army Colonel. See, this is what happens. You start drinking the Kool-Aid, you start changing service. No, Air Force Colonel, nurse, but certainly not unknown to the medical world. And so thank you for being here with your presence too, and obviously we're friends of the family. We're neighbors actually, live in the same subdivision, and so it came to the point where I think Mike's been in long enough that all the people that are either distant or not able to be here or available to do it, again, I come swooping in, we're all good, but it's really about what he told me, and I thought it was pretty cool. It was just, he asked me to do it because we had a little bit of a bonding relationship when we moved here, moving into that neighborhood. Our sons are the same age, our daughters relatively, and they all went to the same schools. And so we even broke bread with the boys, nine teenage boys, trying to make them be men. And we did like a band of brothers kind of thing where we had breakfast and we talked about our faith, and we talked about leadership. We talked about what they need to do in their lives, and we got to share that with another gentleman that used to live in our neighborhood. And so to me, that meant more to me, that time we spent together with our boys, than you even asking me to do this, because that's lifelong, right? This is all temporary, it's lifelong. But let's talk about you a little bit. So I know this is going to be hard, right? And I promise you I'll keep it brief. I'm going to kind of talk about his career in kind of bins and thoughts. It's hard to walk through a career and actually figure out, like, hey, if I could sit here in front of you and start rattling off everything off as OERs, you'd be bored to tears, and you'd be like, I don't understand anything you just said anyways. It's all acronyms and things anyways. And so I really want to talk a little bit about just Mike, because Mike didn't get here alone. Mike didn't just magically become a colonel. And it was a process, and that process was innate with a ton of characteristics to being a leader and just a good human that I think propelled you in a way that above your peers, ahead of your peers, and you took care of soldiers. I mean, I read through your OERs, and it was just amazing the amount of adjectives that were used to describe Mike in such a positive way. It was almost overwhelming because it was like, I've never even heard some of these words being used, and it just was just interesting to say. So, one, humble servant. He is a rock, and when I say that, he doesn't look like rock. Maybe he looks like rock, but Dwayne Johnson, that's, if you guys don't know. But it's interesting because when they say he's the rock, that was as a second lieutenant, platoon leader, right? Your first assignment. But let's before we get to the assignments, let's back up and how we got here to even get you an opportunity. He actually didn't give me his private to NCO records. I don't know why. Maybe they were classified and I couldn't read them or anything. But he was a prior enlisted soldier, and he started out at Camp Shelby, Mississippi. I mean, born in Arizona, ends up Mississippi, and he's enlisted and he's living the dream, right, in the Army. But he started thinking about like wanting to go to college and what that life looked like long term. And so there was opportunities that came about. And so while he's at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, the Army decided to give him an opportunity to go to school, to be a medical services officer, essentially. And they paid his college at Southern Miss University, the Golden Eagles. How interesting to start out in Army ROTC Golden Eagles, and here you are wearing silver ones. It's pretty cool, right? It's come full circle. And, interesting enough, Kelly served. Folks that don't know that, military intelligence officer, got out after her commitment, and ultimately when they met at ROTC at Southern Miss, the story has it, I'll tell my version of it. They met, didn't even really talk or anything. They actually walked past each other in ROTC, and she's like, I'm going to marry him. And here we are this year, it'll be 26 years, right? And of course, Mike, like anybody else, you got to take, hey, when you outkick your coverage, you got to take it, right? So fair catch it, just go to the house. So both of us are in that same boat. So both beautiful wives, beautiful families, and certainly that's where the life kind of started a little bit, right? But he'll tell you that when he started out learning how to be an officer from being an enlisted, there was going to be tripwires and things and stumbles and whatever, but he had great mentors and he had great people that took care of him, and also folks that he remembered from his enlisted time that grew him to be the officer that he is today. And that's a testimony, right? It wasn't just about, hey, I get free college and I get to go be and serve in the Army, and then he just fell in love with it. Like he found his niche, right? I mean, he's a physical specimen. If you look at him, he likes to work out. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I got some notes on that as I was reading through the records. And OERs are different than OPBs in the Air Force, and so I got to highlight some unique things. But here he is. He graduates, and he gets his chance to go off to his first assignment at Fort Hood as a platoon leader, treatment platoon leader, I believe is what you guys call it. And, Army does it right, I think, from a leadership standpoint. They throw you right into the mix, and they give you some soldiers to lead. Air Force, we have to figure out how to lead ourselves maybe a little bit more. But it's awesome to witness what I read when it comes to the leadership qualities, right? And so this is where I have to come with notes because I don't like to miss specifics. And so basically while he's sitting there at Fort Hood, aren't his OERs, for those not familiar with OERs, all of you on this side of the room, I know you're familiar, but the old OERs, before they actually changed them, had some interesting things on the front side. It was identifying character, right? Character was identified by Army values, attributes, and then your skills, right? And so essentially, Army values, there was like a bunch of check boxes, and you made sure you're all yes or no, and honor, integrity, courage, loyalty, respect, selfless service, and duty. And then under attributes, you had different boxes that you could check, and there was rules to it and everything, and it was mental, physical, and emotional. Then there's skills, which were conceptual, interpersonal, technical, and tactical. And then there's actions, influencing, which meant communicating, decision-making, motivating, operating, meant planning, executing, and assessing, and then improving meant developing, building, and learning. And every senior rater or rater had to check these boxes and then write about those attributes or those characteristics. And I found that very interesting because it was to a T, look through all his entire record in general sense. There was only 2 boxes out of all that were never checked. The 2 boxes that were never checked, assessing, and learning. And I'll get to why I think that's the case. So anyways, Mike gets to start out in 1999 after graduating in Southern Miss, and he goes to Fort Hood. He's an actual like physical freak when it comes to working out, I think. I know his son will laugh when I say stuff like that, right, Big Easy? 5'11", 185 pounds when he was a brand new second lieutenant. I say 185 pounds because there's going to be something on your OERs, your weight, right? And so I picked up on some things as he starts to continue to grow into that soldier. But like I said, he's remained the rock, maintaining stability and consistent high performance from his soldiers that he led. His battalion commander says he takes his responsibilities more seriously than his peers. Physically and mentally tough. There's no limit to how far he can take the platoon. Promote him ahead of his peers. That's your first OER as a second lieutenant platoon leader. I was like floored. I'm like, man, I don't know what else is next for you. You're going to be like a 2-star general before too long. This is awesome. Like, I mean, I can't wait to read the rest, right? So year 2 as a second lieutenant, best treatment platoon in the DISCOM and company. Recommended as the exec, and that's a big deal because that means you're entrusted, you're like the right-hand person of the company commander. He truly cares for his soldiers, and they know it. Man, that's a testimony in and of itself. Maturity and demonstrated skills that were far exceeding his contemporaries. I mean, it's just awesome to read your first one. And then the constant recommendations of you have center of mass, is how they used to say it, and then an above center of mass. And if you're above center of mass, that means like they want you to promote early, they want you, like you're the best things in sliced bread. There wasn't a lot of nothing but above center of mass as a second lieutenant, which is weird. I mean, it's an anomaly, let's be honest, right? You think the magnitude of it is pretty cool to watch. That I'm standing before someone that I think and admire, and this is the things that your people and your community talked about you as a medical services corps officer, but more importantly as an Army officer. Then you become a first lieutenant and you become the ambulance platoon leader, and somehow, some way you gain 4 pounds, so you must have been working out. I gotta find jokes somewhere in these things. But basically what the officer there said, the battalion commander, fully capable to command a company today as a first lieutenant, brand new first lieutenant. The thing that I found interesting was he was extremely innovative. He always found ways to train, even as a second lieutenant, to make things better. Let's see, improving the building and all that stuff. He was able to, and you guys can correct me to 100% on this, but he decreased level 2 combat health support to 45 minutes, vice the standard of 4 hours, just through battle drill training. That's a pretty significant decrease. And it was all about streamlining processes. And this was at a time when the Army was going through fourth generation transformation, and the 4th ID, DISCOM, was transforming into these more capable units and multi-domain companies and brigades and things. And it was a time of innovation and being able to make things better. He was recommended for promotion to captain. We always say if you can fog a mirror as a lieutenant, you should make captain. But nonetheless, he's above center of mass, and the thing that got me was potential to go to the top. And top to me always meant at that time that top meant you're going to be a GO. That's what it meant. When you're being told in that kind of conversation, it was about being a GO. It was recognized by the 4th ID CG and all the battalion commanders for all the work he did as a lieutenant. And then he was the exec officer in that same company there. And he goes, the strongest lieutenant. This is what his company commander, the strongest lieutenant and one of the best CGOs. So he's already being in the category of CGOs as a lieutenant, which includes captains. Charismatic leader with unlimited potential, and soldiers in the E Company follow his example and willingly execute his orders and guidance. Willingly. It's because they love you, because of how you treated them. He did some unique things that I thought was pretty cool. He even did fundraising to take his families of his platoon for free to either Six Flags or the Slitterbahn, like 78 families. That's crazy. That's awesome. I don't know what you did, man. You were doing car washes or something. I don't know, but pie in the face. All right. And I found it awesome, you know. So then here he goes. They're all recommending him for company command, and he needed to go find himself in Arizona. Everybody, and we joked about this today because I was thinking, total Army. I'm going to go speak to an audience that has Army soldiers and officers in it, and so I was thinking like, yeah, he got an assignment as the chief of logistics division at Fort Huachuca, and I was like, Hua, you know, and it's a joke. You can laugh. It's okay. It's all right. It's Huachuca. But we had a good chuckle today, you know, and I was like, I'll have to tell that one today. So, yeah, Huachuca. So, everybody know what Hua, you know? So, anyways, he gets to Fort Huachuca, and he's 5 pounds heavier again. He's at 194, dripping wet. While he was there as a brand new captain, the cool thing was his peers got to say, you know what? We want this guy to be, as an alternate duty, the IG, the Inspector General for the unit. I don't know how to take that when I read that. I was like, so the peers either think that they're not going to look like he's going to go in there and inspect them real well or anything, and it's like, oh, they're going to give him a solid, or no, we really need this guy because he's going to find all the problems, and he's going to be able to help us make things better. You can go either way. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Never know. But nonetheless, that's a kind of an esteemed role in the unit because that's the intent. Is to hold the accountability to the unit and ensure that things are going in the right direction. And so he got an opportunity to do that. And at the same time, you know, he's managing $16 million of equipment and a $2 million annual budget as a young captain. And he's leading already 40 personnel. Recommended again for company command. It's like he's trying to avoid being a company commander and what the leadership's telling him. And the whole time we asked this conversation as to why. When you look at his career, all these things that I'm telling you about that were recommended by his leadership gives you the sense of drink the Army Kool-Aid and go where the leaders tell you to go. No, he went a different path. A lot of his assignments are chosen based on family and based on circumstances and about knowing that he can go anywhere and make an impact. And I found value in that because a lot of times we don't do that, especially as an officer. We succumb to that. Kind of like whatever the leaders think we need to do. So he was recommended for company command, CGSC in residence. They wanted him to go in residence. That's a big deal. I mean, I think it's 100% ILE in residence before battalion command, last I remember. But you got to get that recommendation. So they wanted him to go early. And he was also a graduate education selection. He was the #1 captain in that unit at Huachuca. I found it interesting, finally, connection with a civil engineer in the Air Force. He actually, as a logistics officer, was able to acquire a $6.5 million funding in order to do a project to help better his unit. And I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, there's my tie, you know, civil engineer, you know, it's pretty cool. Did it work out? Worked out well. And at the end of the day, he ended up being that company commander finally, and he was leading 145 soldiers. That's when you're cutting your teeth right. And what do? Well, we gotta go overseas. It's time. And here he is having to go overseas, and he's basically going to be assigned as an advisor for medical to the Iraqi army. And he's basically advising them on how to do medical operations. And so he's embedded there, and he has to be away from family for a year and change. We say that because it's a deployment, which means MOB and demob time in the Army, and essentially it's almost like anywhere between 18 to almost 2 years, 18 months to almost 2 years. That's his first time going away from family and leaving them there. And here's what they said about him while he was over there. And oh, by the way, in the narrative of the Legion of Merit, there's definitely some language about multiple patrols outside the wire, and we all know and been there traveling outside the wire, those that are deployed, and for him to come home and bring all of his soldiers home with 0 incidents, 0 accidents, 0 lives lost was a testimony in and of itself too, as a leader. Because he's a safety freak, and he talks about it all the time to make sure that everything is buttoned up the way it needs to be. And so they recommended him, said, hey, Senior leader qualities, a soldier's soldier, top 2% of CGOs in 25 years of serving that I've seen. This is what the senior rater said. The best medical services corps officer he's ever been around. Groomed for battalion and brigade command. Must for BTZ to major. Like, that's like 2 levels up they're already talking about. Brigade's like the 06 level. This is crazy. And so here he goes from there, comes back, and he gets to go be in grad school here in Fort Sam Houston, reunites with the family, also got an opportunity to be the exec officer. He's at 199 pounds. He's almost breaking 200, you know. But while he was here, the unique thing of that exec officer time and that grad school opportunity was it was a time of transition. And here we are living in it today. That transition was 7 degree programs from 3 different departments, moving it seamlessly to the new school here. It was the most major re-engineering of grad education in 70 years, and he was integral to that. So here he is in the center of change, improving and doing things. Remember the conversation about how it was with Fourth ID? Mike's there, purposeful, planned. So he moves on. He's a grad intern there at Fort Detrick. Another time away from family. That's about 8 months tour. And then he gets an assignment to Fort Leavenworth, not the jail, but Command General Staff College. Felt like jail probably, but that's another year and change away. And so here we are, 18 months again away. So here we are. That's 4 years away from family. And ultimately, you know, then after that, he gets back to Fort Sam, and he gets assigned as the Chief of Supply Chain Management there at BAMC here, right here at BAMC. And because he had so much time away, he was eating out probably a lot. He was working out, and here he is at 220. I don't know what happened, but he's like, I'm busting that 200, and he's there. I jokingly, because I got to help him out here, because I know this is going to be tough for him when he gets up here, and so I'm trying to bring some levity to the excitement that we're talking about today about you. BAMC, Army's, you know, only level 1 trauma center, right? It's the largest medical center in DOD, because at that time, folks that may not know, is when we bracked and we combined Air Force and Army, and here he is in the middle again of another transformation that's going to benefit the entire DOD. Huge, huge, huge opportunity for him, and he killed it as the exec. He was recommended for BTZ to lieutenant colonel. I mean, he executed as the exec officer like 200 visits, over 500 DVs 1 year, and then the second year as the exec officer, it was like 109, I don't know, it was like 275 visits and like 600 DVs, because it was all transformation and under BRAC. And so everybody you could think of that came in, from both the Department of Defense, from Congress, from everything. And here he is, like leading the charge and making sure all that happens. And yes, stress of being an exec for a scenario like this, he's back down to 196. Yep, took care of himself right there. There you go. So then he goes on and, you know, he gets the opportunity, you know, to be a lieutenant colonel, and he starts cutting his teeth as what we would call a COO, basically a chief administrator of a hospital, right? And so he goes over to Army Health Center there in Eustis, gets assigned there, family gets to move with, they get a chance to be there. And he was the #1 of 3 military deputies, the #1 MSC officer, the top third of 72 lieutenant colonels. Under that senior rater's watch, top 15% in the region, because they were a regional command over all the medical health centers there. He was the #5 of 67 lieutenant colonels in his next year, and in his third year, he was the #9 of 76 lieutenant colonels, and the #3 of 12 COOs, basically the DCAs, Deputy Commander for Administration of the hospital. And he transformed that hospital over 6 months. And what I will tell you, you know, everything from like losing the surgical ward to you name it. There was a pre-joint basing, right, I think, or right around that cusp of that with Langley. I think it was around that time when they were combining Eustis and Langley, the Air Force connection there. But the bottom line was he essentially led those efforts while he was there as the COO. And he'll tell you that's probably his best assignment from a teaming, leadership opportunity, and just the whole unit in and of itself. And so pretty cool to see him flourish there. Well, you don't get, nothing goes unpunished, right? So here we go. Got to send you off to a different one. He comes back to Fort Hood, Texas, and you got the Darnell Army Medical Center there in Fort Hood, and he's now a lieutenant colonel promotable, which basically means he gets the honor of being in 06 in waiting, and ultimately he was the #1 lieutenant colonel in the command. And the comments here just struck me. Yeah, he's a promotable, but he still is the #1 lieutenant colonel in their minds, and he is should be groomed for GO. He's got a reputation as a can-do leader. And then he gets the chance to put on his 06 time, and oh, by the way, while he was there at Fort Hood, that's when we kind of moved, and we met as a family, and we were talking with Kelly, and the kids were getting to know each other, and we're all in the same neighborhood, and Mike's not around, and I didn't realize that they were separated again. And so they were still here in San Antonio while Mike did that assignment up there. And I would only see him during football games, only see him during other times, basketball, whatever come in, if he could make it. But that's when we started seeing each other as families and getting a chance to hang out. So here he is now. He's a full-blown 06, and he gets an opportunity to come back to Fort Sam, and he gets to be the exec officer for the Army Baylor grad university program here. And for those that listen to the Legion of Merit, I mean, the #9 of all of the equivalent level programs across, I think it's like 60. Is it like 60 programs roughly, I think maybe? Or is it 45 or 60? I can't remember the number of programs, but it's not, they're the #9 according to U.S. News and World Report. And over that time, he's had 100 to 200 different students that he's mentored and coached and got through the different cohorts. And oh, by the way, he's back up to 226. But he is the top third of 42 high-performing colonels. And I just absolutely love the entire career, watching you progress, and know in a heart of hearts the attributes that you exuded. The interesting why I pointed out that he was never checkbox on assessing or learning is because there's not a whole lot of reason to assess things when you do it right. I mean, let's be honest, right? If you do it right the first time, you don't have to do it the second time. And so assessing, but that doesn't mean that you don't know how to. It's just when you do it right. And I picked up on that, I think, is the reason why, is you did things right. You treated your soldiers with respect and dignity, and you took care of them, and you let them do the mission. And the learning piece, you're a lifelong learner. You didn't seek it out. It was all part of the plan. Go to grad school, go to CGSC, all for the benefit of everybody else, not for you. That's why they didn't check that box. Any learning that he did, it wasn't for his benefit. It was for everybody else's. Because he soaked it all in, and then he exuded and embodied that in everything he touched. But that's not how the OER would read. You checked that box because you were seeking out the learning. He used it to the benefit of others. And it's always been about service. So I know you're a huge Oakland Raiders fan. And so I have to end on some Are you an Al Davis fan? Okay, all right. So some people are either or not. I don't know. But anyways, so I got to leave on this. And Benny knows how I am about football, right, Benny? There's a quote that we can say that one that everybody knows, like, just win, baby. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Yep, yeah, okay. Not really, but, you got a Falcons fan. Ethan and I, Big Easy and I get along because we're Falcons fans, right? And then he starts talking about Georgia, and then it's like, no, we're done. Okay. But this is these two quotes, you epitomize them. And I look at your career and I go, this is awesome. You don't adjust. You just dominate. You don't adjust. You just dominate. Do it right the first time. And then this one. We all know time never really stops for the great ones. It reaches out and wraps them in a cloak of immortality. Brother, this has been an honor. I took a little much time I shouldn't have maybe and talked maybe too long, but I do want to capture the essence, what I think your records reflect, but more importantly, you as a person, you as a family man. I've witnessed it. it's been a pleasure being your brother in arms, but more importantly as a neighbor and a friend. Thanks for the opportunity again. But if we were to be today looking back on our lives and we were to write our own obituary, what would it read? Brother, you served eloquently, exceptionally, and everything that you touched was gold, man. And so you can walk away and start your next journey in life knowing good and well that you did it right, and there's no questions asked. You're a phenomenal officer and a phenomenal human, and we're going to lose a great one today to service. We can stop it all now, but unfortunately, Kimberly made that happen too early before we did it. And so you're already retired, I guess, as of today, so we can't turn it off. Oh well, I was going to try to do that, but she got it out of the way because she's like, no, he's ready to go. So, no, seriously, I just thank you for the opportunity. Love you, brother. Amazing. Congratulations.
Every retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of their active duty service commitment and shares a lifelong association with our Army heritage. At this time, I'd like to ask his wife, Kelly, to please come forward to affix the Army retirement pin on her husband's lapel to symbolize his transition from active duty to retired status. The United States Army Retirement Lapel Pin is symbolic of 20 years or more of honorable service to our country. Retirees should wear the pin proudly to signify their contributions to America's welfare and security. Mrs. Whiddon, please remain center stage. At this time, Colonel Nichols will present a spouse's certificate to Mrs. Whiddon.
Tell these military intelligence officers in the shadows and like the limelight, spotlight. You're in the middle.
The certificate reads, "To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that Mrs. Kelly Whiddon, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding has helped make possible his lasting contribution to the nation." Signed, Randy A. George, General, United States Army Chief of Staff. Mrs. Whiddon is also being presented the Yellow Rose of Texas Award in recognition of her exceptional community service. Signed, Governor Greg Abbott. Thank you, Kelly. You may return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we have a special presentation for Colonel Whiddon's family. Mrs. Whiddon is being presented with a bouquet of roses on behalf of the faculty and students at Army Baylor, thanking her for the supportive role that she's played throughout Colonel Whiddon's career. Colonel Whiddon's children, Taylor and Ethan, and his niece, Kiana, are now being presented with Army Baylor coins. These coins are presented in recognition of their personal sacrifices, support, and understanding that have enabled Colonel Whiddon's successful career. On behalf of Colonel Dan Wood, Program Director, we thank you for your own special service throughout Colonel Whiddon's career. Colonel Whiddon, please remain center stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Nichols will now present a Presidential Certificate of Appreciation to Colonel Whiddon from former President Joseph R. Biden, Jr., thanking him for his service on the occasion of his retirement. Colonel Nichols will also present a letter to Colonel Whiddon from former President George W. Bush, congratulating him on his retirement and thanking him for his contributions to our security and the cause of peace and freedom. Colonel Whiddon will also receive a certificate of appreciation from Governor Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, signed December 20th, 2024, along with an honorary appointment as Admiral in the Texas Navy in recognition of his community service to the state of Texas.
I don't know what's funny right now.
It's a real thing.
Texas Navy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Whiddon will also receive several tokens of appreciation from his alma mater, the University of Southern Mississippi. He's receiving a certificate of appreciation for 30 years of dedicated service. He is also receiving a personal letter of congratulations from Dr. Joseph Paul, President of the University of Southern Mississippi, along with a coin from the ROTC department. He's also receiving a personal letter and some personal headgear from Jeff Hammond, Major General retired, Director of Veterans and Military Affairs at Southern Miss. Finally, we have two special presentations for Colonel Whiddon. First, Colonel Whiddon is receiving a flag and a personal note from the Las Vegas Raiders. The flag that is being presented today was flown over Allegiant Stadium on January 30th, 2025, and is being given to Colonel Whiddon in honor of his service to the United States Army. The second special presentation comes from the students and faculty at the Army Baylor Graduate Program in Health and Business Administration. On behalf of all of us, we're honored to present this plaque in appreciation from your dedication to service and lasting contributions to our program and the United States Army. Colonel Whiddon, thank you for your service and support. We're going to miss you. Please join me in a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you Colonel Retired Michael S. Whiddon.
I got to get some water before I start.
I told him two things of advice. Don't look at your family. And if you feel it, the allergies start to come, slap the podium.
That was a very good piece of advice. All right. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. To my family, my friends, fellow soldiers, mentors that are in the audience, and distinguished guests. Before I begin remarks, I want to extend my gratitude to my Army Baylor family who pulled this ceremony together for me today. Specifically, Lieutenant Colonel Kim Decker, who you've seen up here, and Miss Renee Pryor. Thank you, Miss Renee. And Miss Donna Mario. And Willie. This is a formal ceremony, so should I call you William? Oh, just Willie. Willie's good? All right. All right, thank you for providing the invocation. It always means so much. It always means so much more when there's a personal touch to it. And everybody enjoyed the anthem. Master Sergeant retired Tara Taylor. She does an amazing job. She's not here, but I was going to tell her this is probably the last time I'll have to ask her to sing for me, sing the anthem for me. If you would, please join me in a round of applause for these outstanding individuals. I can't ever remember my mouth being this dry. Special thanks to Colonel Nichols, George. Thank you for taking this time out to officiate today. I really appreciate it. Not sure if you've ever, I think you've never participated in this type of ceremony for the Army. So there weren't too many surprises. The only one would be when you got to sing the Army song at the end. We expect you to sing loud and proud. All right? I know you had to embellish a lot during your discussion, and I appreciate it. I do owe you a beverage of choice for making me sound like I'm an outstanding individual. So I've only known George for about 4 years. He did mention that. Our two boys did play football and basketball together in junior high school, for our freshman year. So a lot of you, I'm sure, are just wondering why, and George mentioned this earlier, why is he here? He's an Air Force colonel. Why is he participating in this ceremony? And George, I tell you, it's rare to find someone outside of where you're serving to look up to. And you're one. And I appreciate you. Thanks for doing it today. So I want to especially acknowledge my wife, Kelly, our daughter, Taylor Anise, who just had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday. And my son, Ethan. Words alone could never express how deeply I love each of you. Thank you for allowing me to share this journey with you. Okay, all right, before I jump into the deep end, if you see tears, if you notice me getting choked up, I've been known to do that. Just remember those are tears. Those are actually tears of gratitude and humility, of victory and family. So please bear with me. If it happens, bear with me. I'll gather myself and we'll move forward. So today marks a significant milestone in my life and career. I'm incredibly grateful to share this moment with all of you. Over the past 33 years, 26 of those being in the Medical Service Corps, I've been blessed with opportunities, experiences, relationships, all that shaped my way into the person I am today. And I never could have imagined that journey when I put on my first pair of combat boots at age 17. When I enlisted, I was chasing structure, purpose, a sense of belonging. And little did I realize, little did I realize how profoundly the Army would change my life. So now as I celebrate and look back at these 33 years of service, I can smile about the many accomplishments. But I can assure you that those accomplishments weren't made without errors, without mistakes or failure. Because it's the errors and the mistakes and the failures that allow me to become the leader I am. Learning to make adjustments and improving is what shaped my journey. As a result, my leadership expectations and priorities have always remained fairly simple. Number one would be take care of people. Treat people like they are people, not just part of a system. Take time out with those you lead, those you work with. Take time to coach, teach, mentor. Pass on your lessons learned. They're valuable. Help shape those future leaders. Number two would be provide detailed analysis and honest recommendations. You have to tell leaders what they need to hear, even if it's not what they want to hear. And of course, there's a way to do that tactfully. So you have to maintain situational awareness when you do it. But when it comes down to it, whether you agree or don't agree, you'll find a way. And number three would be support the commander's intent. Be united behind the mission. Disagree behind closed doors, but then do everything you can in the open to support the final decision. Those three guiding principles, anchored by my faith, have carried me further than I ever imagined. They've also brought me countless blessings in the form of mentors and friends. So I can't possibly thank everyone who influenced my career. Doing so would definitely take too long. But I do want to highlight a few individuals who made a special impact. To my wife, Kelly, I love you. We'll celebrate 26 years of being married this year, our anniversary, 26th anniversary. And you've been my constant throughout. From chasing me around the quad at Southern Miss to sticking by my side through thick and thin, you are my rock. Master Sergeant retired Vicki O'Neill. I don't think Vicki's here with us today, but she's the best platoon sergeant ever. And I will argue with anybody that says she's not. Sergeant First Class retired Natasha Love, who was one of my former treatment ambulance platoon squad leaders. Made a huge impact. Mr. Dwayne Stubblefield, who surprised me by his appearance today, who I served with at Huachuca. Thanks, Dwayne. I really appreciate you coming. And then there's Miss Angie Almontrout, Miss Lo Gordon, two super civilians at McDonald Army Health Center. Colonel retired Dave Parker, one of my first company commanders. And Colonels retired Noel Cardenas and Mark Swafford, both previous deputy commanders. And of course, I can't forget the multitude of amazing non-commissioned officers and soldiers who looked out for a young officer, pushing to complete the mission. They had my back and carried me when I needed it. All of these individuals and countless others are the ones who set the standard high and invested their time in me to coach, teach, and mentor. And I can say without a doubt, I've stood on the shoulders of giants. In reflecting on more than 3 decades of service, the best and most meaningful memories are not of individual awards, promotions, or accolades, but it's the moments shared, the challenges overcame, the missions completed, and the lives improved through our collective efforts. I move forward into retirement with a full heart. Ready for the next phase of life and holding on to the countless lessons and friendships made along the way. And as I close, I'll leave you with these three thoughts. One, again, take care of people. Trust is the key. You build trust with those who depend on you, and you'll be amazed at what can be accomplished. Speak the truth. Be upfront with your leaders and those you lead. It will be difficult at first, but in the end, they'll thank you for it. And finally, probably the most important for individual development, you have to understand, and I'm looking at my kids, understand that failure is a part of the process. It's okay to fail, but don't let failure keep you from being great. No matter the circumstances, pick yourself up and keep pressing forward. Yeah, thank you all again for being here today. God bless you. Be safe going home. Sick 'em Bears.
In appreciation for his contribution to the Army and its mission, the men and women of the United States Army are proud to have served with Colonel Whiddon and assure him that we will always be a valuable member of the Army family, even in retirement. We wish him and his family every success in their future endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for helping us honor Colonel Michael S. Whiddon, for service truly represents our Army core values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Please stand for the playing of the Army song and remain standing for the departure of the official party.
Sorry, he went to sleep.
Can we just do one, pause real quick? Yes. Keep trying to find it before we play. Because I know things happen. We don't want to forget this. Greet the family. You might up here get pictures. I think we ought to do that. Because once you get out there, everybody's eating and having a good time. Let's do that. Yeah. That way. Yeah. You do it like a fellow.
This concludes today's ceremony. Colonel Whiddon and Kelly invite you to join them in the reception for a reception in the lobby outside in Blesse Auditorium.
Baker, yeah. So she said, I know we don't normally do it, but please. I'm like,